I need you to pretend we broke up. My ex is coming to town and I want to see if there's still something there, she said casually. I said, okay, and walked out. Permanently. She called after her ex left, ready to resume. I said, we're not pretending anymore, and hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The air in our apartment didn't feel different that Tuesday. The smell of the garlic chicken I'd just made still hung in the kitchen. My girlfriend, Sarah, sat across from me at the small IKEA dining table we'd built together 3 years ago. She was pushing a piece of broccoli around her plate, her eyes fixed on the grain of the wood. We'd been together for 3 years. Lived together for 2. I was 28, she was 26. I thought we were solid. I was saving for a ring, a classic solitaire she'd pointed out once when we walked past a jeweler's window. I had a spreadsheet for our finances, a plan for a down payment on a house, a vision of us growing old and boring together. I was an idiot. Mark is coming to town, she said. She didn't look up. She just dropped the sentence onto the table like a dead bird. I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. Mark. The ex. The one who got away from college. The guy who played bass in a band that never went anywhere, who treated her like an option, and who she'd cried over for months before we met. I knew the name well. I'd spent the first 6 months of our relationship helping her sweep up the emotional debris he'd left behind. Okay, I said, keeping my voice even. Is he passing through? He's here for a week, she said. Finally, she looked up. Her eyes weren't guilty. They were bright. Excited. Nervous in the way you get before a big interview or a first date. That knot in my stomach tightened. He messaged me on Instagram. He wants to see me. And she took a breath, the kind people take before they dive underwater. I want to see him too, Dave. I need to see him. I put my fork down. The metal clinked loudly against the ceramic. You need to see him? What does that mean, Sarah? Coffee? Lunch? I don't know, she said, and the speed of her answer told me she knew exactly what it meant. That's the problem. I don't know. We never really had closure. It just ended. And now we've been together for 3 years, and things are good. You're great. You're safe. Safe. The word felt like a slap. Safe is what you call a Volvo, not the man you love. But I always wonder, she continued, gaining momentum now, her hands fluttering. I wonder what if. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to me to have this ghost hanging over us. I need to know if there's still a spark. I need to get it out of my system so I can commit to you fully. I need to be sure. I stared at her. The audacity was so physical it almost had mass. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You want to pause our relationship for a week to test drive your ex-boyfriend. If the sex is good, you leave me. If he's a loser or dumps you again, you come back to safety. Is that the pitch? Don't make it sound so ugly, she snapped, her face flushing. It's not a test drive. It's closure. I need to know if we're meant to be. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back. I need you to do this for me, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. If you love me, you'll let me figure this out. But I can't do it if you're here. It would be weird. I need you to go stay at your brother's place for the week. Or a hotel. Just give me the apartment until Sunday. Let me have this week to figure out my life. When you come back, I'll know. And I promise, Dave, I'm 99% sure I'll choose you. 99%. She was kicking me out of my own home, the apartment where my name was on the lease, where I paid 60% of the rent, so she could play house with the guy who broke her heart. She wanted me to vacate the premises so she wouldn't have to feel the guilt of seeing my toothbrush while she cheated on me. I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the entitlement in her jawline, the selfishness in her eyes, the absolute, breathtaking disrespect of asking me to subsidize her affair with my absence. In that moment, the love didn't just fade. It was incinerated. It turned to ash instantly, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. If I argued, I looked weak. If I begged, I looked pathetic. If I yelled, I was the controlling boyfriend. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to fight for her, to prove I cared more than he did. She wanted to be the prize 2 men were competing for. I decided right then that I wasn't going to compete. I was going to disqualify myself. I stood up and picked up my plate. I walked to the trash can and scraped the chicken and broccoli into the bin. Okay, I said. Sarah blinked, stunned. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I turned to face her, my face a mask of absolute indifference. If you need to figure it out, figure it out. I'll go pack a bag. Really? A smile broke across her face, relief mixed with a little disappointment that I wasn't fighting harder. You understand? Oh my God. Thank you, Dave. You're so mature. Most guys wouldn't get it. I get it perfectly, I said. I walked into the bedroom and pulled my large suitcase from the top of the closet. Just a week's worth of stuff, she called out from the living room. You don't need to pack everything. I know, I muttered. I opened the suitcase. I didn't pack clothes first. I went to the small safe in the back of the closet. I took out my passport, my birth certificate, my social security card, and the spare key to my car. I put them in the mesh lining. Then I went to the dresser. I took my grandfather's watch, my expensive noise-canceling headphones, the hard drive with all my photos and work backups. I packed my suits, my good shoes. I left the t-shirts, the old jeans, the things that were easily replaced. I moved methodically, like a machine. I felt nothing. No sadness. Just a tactical need to extract my value from a depreciating asset. Sarah appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. She looked almost giddy. Mark lands in 2 hours. I was thinking of picking him up. You should, I said, zipping the suitcase. It was heavy. Don't want to keep him waiting. I hoisted the bag off the bed. I looked around the room. The photos of us on the dresser. The bed we bought together. It all looked like a set on a TV show that had just been canceled. I walked past her into the hallway. Where will you stay? She asked, following me. I'll figure it out, I said. I stopped at the front door. Dave, she said, reaching for my arm again. Thank you. I know this is weird, but when you come back on Sunday, we're going to be so much stronger. I just know it. She leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head slightly, so her lips landed on my cheek. It felt cold. Here, I said. I fished my house key out of my pocket and dropped it into her hand. She looked at the key, confused. You can keep your key, silly. You're coming back. You might need the spare, I said, in case Mark loses his. I opened the door and walked out into the cool evening air. I didn't look back. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it with a soft click. I walked down the 3 flights of stairs to the street, the suitcase wheels thumping a steady rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. I got in my car, threw the suitcase in the trunk, and got into the driver's seat. I sat there for a moment in the silence. Then, I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app and transferred half of our joint savings, my exact contribution plus interest, into my personal checking account. Then I opened my contacts. I scrolled to Sarah. I hit block caller. I opened WhatsApp. Block. Instagram. Block. I put the phone down on the passenger seat. I wasn't going to a hotel. I wasn't going to my brother's. Okay, Sarah, I said to the empty car. Let's see if there's still something there. I started the engine and drove away. We weren't on a break. We were done. She just didn't know it yet. The first night was the strangest. I checked into a Marriott about 20 minutes away from her apartment. I expected to fall apart. I expected to stare at the ceiling and wonder what they were doing. I expected the torture of imagination. Are they kissing? Is she wearing that black dress I bought her? Is she laughing at his jokes? But the torture never came. Instead, I ordered a steak from room service, opened my laptop, and slept for 9 hours straight. It turns out, anxiety requires hope to survive. You only worry when you think there's something left to save. I knew there wasn't. The moment she asked me to leave so she could audition another man, the contract was voided. I wasn't a boyfriend in exile. I was a free agent. The next morning, Wednesday, I went to work as usual. I'm a project manager for a logistics firm. My job is literally moving things from point A to point B and mitigating disasters. I treated my life like a failing project. First, the landlord. I called Mr. Henderson on my lunch break. We had a good relationship. I was the one who fixed the leaky sink and repainted the hallway. Sarah was the one who called him at 10 p.m. because a light bulb went out. Mr. Henderson, I said, keeping my voice professional. I need to discuss the lease on apartment 4B. Everything okay, Dave? Rent isn't due until the 1st. The rent will be paid, I said. But I'm moving out. Effective immediately. I'm willing to pay the 2-month penalty to break my portion of the lease and remove my name. There was a pause. Is Sarah leaving too? No, I said. Sarah is staying. She wants the place to herself. I'm assuming she'll be taking over the full lease. I just want to ensure my credit is clear and my liability is 0. I see, he said, his tone shifting. He knew Sarah's job. She was a freelance graphic designer who had good months and bad months. Mostly bad. Well, if you pay the break fee, I can draft the addendum. But she'll need to re-qualify for the income requirement alone. That's a conversation for you and her, I said. Send me the papers. I wired him $3,000 from my savings that afternoon. It hurt to see the number drop, but it was the price of freedom. Thursday was the apartment hunt. I had about $12,000 sitting in a separate high-yield savings account. It was labeled engagement ring. I renamed the folder Freedom Fund. I toured a one-bedroom loft downtown. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, zero memories. It cost more than my share of the old place, but I didn't care. I signed the lease on the spot. The property manager looked at my pay stubs and approved me in an hour. When do you want to move in? She asked. Tonight, I said. I don't have furniture yet. I just need the keys. I bought an air mattress and a folding chair from Target. That night, lying on the floor of my new, empty apartment, eating takeout Chinese food, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. No walking on eggshells. No listening to Sarah complain about her friends. No wondering if I was enough. I was alone, and it was addictive. Friday was the confirmation. I still had Sarah blocked, but our social circles overlapped. Around 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Mike, a buddy of mine who didn't know the situation. Mike, yo, you and Sarah okay? I stared at the screen. Me, why? Mike, just saw her at O'Malley's. She's with some guy in a leather jacket. Looks like that dude from that old band she liked. They look intense. She's practically climbing onto his lap. Didn't know if you guys had an open thing or what. I felt a cold spike in my chest. Not jealousy. Disgust. O'Malley's was where we had our first date. She took him there. Of course she did. She was recycling memories because she was too lazy to make new ones. Me, we're done, Mike. Moved out Tuesday. Mike, shit. Sorry, man. Honestly, you dodged a bullet. Dude looks like he hasn't showered in a week. She looks desperate. She was crying a little bit ago, trying to grab his hand, and he was checking his phone. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The image was crystal clear. The fantasy was colliding with reality. In her head, Mark was this brooding, poetic soulmate. In reality, Mark was a 30-something wash-up who was probably just looking for a free place to crash and a quick hookup. Sarah was likely realizing that the spark she missed was just the anxiety of dating an asshole. She was degrading herself in public, begging for attention from a guy who didn't care, while the man who actually loved her was buying a sleek gray sectional sofa for his new life. Saturday passed in a blur of setup. I bought a 65-inch TV. I set up my gaming PC. I bought decent sheets. By Saturday night, my new place looked like a home. A bachelor's home, sure, minimalist and gray, but a home. I hadn't spoken to her in 4 days. To her, this silence probably felt like obedience. She likely thought I was sitting in a sad hotel room, staring at my phone, waiting for her verdict. She probably felt powerful. She had no idea that the power had shifted the second the door clicked shut on Tuesday. Sunday morning arrived. The deadline. The week was over. Mark was leaving today. I woke up, went for a run, and made coffee. I sat in my new living room, looking out the window at the city skyline. I felt strong. The fog had lifted. I looked at the clock. 11 a.m. Mark's flight was probably around noon. She would be driving him to the airport, having that tearful, "What does this mean for us?" conversation. He would give her non-committal answers. She would drive home alone. She would walk into the apartment. She would see my side of the closet empty. She would see the safe open and empty. But she wouldn't panic yet. She would tell herself I just packed heavy. She would tell herself I was coming back to fill the space. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over her name in the contact list. I unblocked her. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just set the phone on the coffee table and waited. At 1:14 p.m., the phone lit up. Incoming call. Sarah. I watched it ring. 1, 2, 3. I picked it up and pressed it to my ear. I didn't say hello. I just breathed. Dave. Her voice was breathless. Shaky. But she was trying to sound upbeat. Hey baby. Are you there? I'm here, I said. My voice sounded deeper than usual. Calm. Oh. Thank God. She let out a laugh that sounded like a sob. I missed you so much. This week. God, Dave, this week was a nightmare. I leaned back on my new sofa, resting my feet on the coffee table. Was it? Yes, she said, rushing the words out. You were right. You were totally right. Mark, he's not who I thought he was. He's immature and selfish, and honestly, he smells like cigarettes and cheap beer. I spent the whole time wishing it was you." She paused, waiting for me to comfort her, waiting for me to say, "I told you so, but I forgive you." "I realized something," she continued, her voice dropping to that intimate register she used when she wanted something. "I realized that what we have is real. He was just a fantasy. But you're my reality. I choose you, Dave. I choose us. You choose me." I repeated flatly. "Yes, I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry, but I needed to do this to be sure. And now I'm sure. Can you come home? I'm making that lasagna you like. I want to forget this ever happened. Just come home, babe." I looked around my new apartment. The sunlight hitting the floor. The silence. The dignity. "I can't do that, Sarah," I said. "What? Why? You're still at your brother's, right? Just drive over. I'll make it up to you. I promise." "I'm not at my brother's," I said. "And I'm not at a hotel." "Where are you?" Her voice hitched, a tiny thread of panic woven in. "I'm at home," I said. "My home. I don't understand. I'm at home. You're not here." "No," I corrected her. "You are at your apartment. I am at my apartment." Silence on the line. Thick, heavy silence. "Dave, what are you talking about?" "You asked for a breakup, Sarah," I said, my voice ice cold. "You asked me to move out so you could fuck your ex-boyfriend. You called it a pause. You called it closure. I called it the end." "No," she shrieked. "It wasn't a question anymore. It was just for the week. We agreed. You said okay. I said okay to the breakup," I said. "I moved out on Tuesday. I signed a new lease on Thursday. I'm not coming back, Sarah. Not today. Not ever." "You can't do this," she screamed. I could hear the desperation clawing at her throat. "You can't just leave. We live together. The rent. My life. The rent is paid for this month," I said. "I spoke to Mr. Henderson. I paid the penalty to break my lease. As of the 1st of next month, the apartment is entirely yours. You chose Mark for the week. You can have the apartment for the rest of your life. I hope you two were worth it." "He's gone," she was sobbing now, ugly, heaving sobs. "He left. He didn't even say goodbye properly. I have no one, Dave. You can't leave me alone. We're not pretending anymore, Sarah," I said. "You wanted to see if there was something still there? Well, look around the apartment. Look at the empty closet. Look at the empty safe. There's nothing there. Dave, please. I love you. Don't hang up. Goodbye, Sarah." I tapped the red button. Then I tapped block. I sat there for a moment, listening to the silence of the room. It was the best sound I had ever heard. I stood up, walked to the fridge, and cracked open a beer. I took a long sip. Then the doorbell rang. I frowned. Nobody knew where I lived yet. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It wasn't Sarah. It was a delivery guy with a pizza. Right. I'd ordered that. I opened the door, paid the guy, and took the box. "Have a good night, man," the driver said. I smiled. A real, genuine smile. "I definitely will." But of course, karma isn't done just because you hang up the phone. The unraveling was just beginning. And I had a front row seat, even from a distance. The silence following that phone call was the most expensive thing I'd ever bought, and it was worth every penny of the $3,000 lease break fee. But in the age of social media and mutual friends, you can never truly vanish. You just change your viewing angle. I became a spectator to the car crash I had stepped out of. It started on Tuesday, 2 days after the breakup. I was at work, reviewing shipping manifests, when my phone buzzed. It was Mike again. "Mike, dude, you need to see this." He sent a screenshot of a Facebook status from Sarah. It was a wall of text. "Some men are cowards who run away at the first sign of difficulty. A real man fights for his relationship. A real man understands that confusion is part of love. Abandoning your partner when they are vulnerable is the lowest form of betrayal." Hashtag heartbroken, hashtag fake love. I laughed out loud. My coworker, Jen, looked over from her cubicle. "Good news." "Great news," I said. "The trash is taking itself out." She was spinning the narrative. She was trying to paint me as the villain who abandoned her, conveniently leaving out the part where she evicted me to host a sex week with her ex-boyfriend. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I knew the truth, and more importantly, our friends knew me. They knew I wasn't impulsive. If I left, there was a reason. Wednesday brought the financial reality check. I received an email from our shared utility account. Payment failed, insufficient funds. I smiled. When I left, I had removed my card from the autopay and left only hers. She obviously hadn't checked the balance. Then came the texts from random numbers, friends of hers I hadn't blocked yet, or maybe she was using their phones. Number 1. Dave, you can't just leave her with the rent. She's crying her eyes out. Be a man. Number 2. This is really cruel, Dave. At least talk to her. I replied to one of them, Sarah's best friend, Jessica. Jessica was the one who always encouraged Sarah to know her worth. Me. Jessica, she asked me to move out for a week so she could sleep with her ex-boyfriend Mark. She called it a trial run. I just made the move permanent. If you think she's a victim, feel free to pay her rent. I never got a reply from Jessica, but I heard through the grapevine that the poor Sarah narrative died pretty quickly after that. Friday night, 5 days post-breakup, was the implosion. I was at a bar with a few guys from work, celebrating closing a big project. I was 3 beers in, feeling light and easy. Then I saw him. Mark, the ex. He was at the bar, ordering a shot. He looked rougher than his Instagram photos. Leather jacket scuffed, hair greasy, looking around the room like he owed someone money. I felt a surge of adrenaline. I should have been angry. I should have wanted to punch him. But looking at him, this sloppy, aging hipster who looked like he smelled of stale tobacco, I just felt pity. This was the competition? This was the guy she blew up her life for? He didn't know who I was. Why would he? I was just the safety net. I walked up to the bar next to him. Tough week, I asked, signaling the bartender for another round. Mark looked at me, bleary-eyed. You have no idea, man. Bitches are crazy in this town. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah. He scoffed, knocking back his whiskey. Came here to visit an old flame. Thought we'd have a good time. Maybe hook up for old time's sake. Chick went full psycho. Day 2, she's talking about marriage. Day 3, she's crying because I didn't want to watch The Notebook or whatever. I dipped out early. Been crashing on a buddy's couch since Wednesday. I fought to keep my expression neutral. She sounds intense. Intense. She's delusional, Mark laughed. She kicked her boyfriend out for the week just to have me over. Like, literally sent the dude packing. I told her, babe, if you do that to him, you'll do it to me. No loyalty. I can't respect that. The irony was so rich it tasted like expensive chocolate. Even the scumbag homewrecker had higher standards than Sarah. Sounds like you dodged a bullet, I said, clinking my glass against his empty one. Bullet? I dodged a nuke, he muttered. Heading back to Portland tomorrow. Good riddance. I finished my drink, paid my tab, and left a generous tip. Safe flight, Mark. I walked out of that bar feeling like I was floating. I had the confirmation. He didn't even like her. She destroyed everything for a guy who called her delusional to a stranger at a bar. The next week, the silence from Sarah stopped, and the desperation began. The emails started arriving. Long, rambling essays sent to my work address because it was the only channel I couldn't fully block without IT getting involved. Subject, please read. The truth, Dave, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But what I did wasn't cheating. It was clarity. I needed to see that the grass wasn't greener. It was brown and dead. You are the greenest grass I've ever known. I deleted it. Subject, rent, Dave, I can't make rent on the first alone. Mr. Henderson says I have to reapply or get a roommate. Please, just pay half for this month. We were partners. Doesn't that mean anything? I forwarded it to my spam folder. Then, 2 weeks later, the final encounter. The optional twist that life gifted me. I was at a coffee shop downtown, the nice one near my new apartment. I was sitting with a woman named Elena. We had met on a dating app a few days prior. It was our first date. It was going well. She was funny, an architect, sharp as a tack. The door chimed. I looked up. Sarah walked in. She looked terrible. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was in a messy bun, but not the cute, messy bun style. The I haven't washed this in 3 days style. She was wearing sweatpants. She was holding a stack of flyers. Roommate wanted. She walked to the community board near the counter to pin one up. She turned. Our eyes locked. Time froze. I saw the recognition hit her like a physical blow. She saw me. She saw the clean shave, the fresh haircut, the nice shirt. She saw Elena laughing at something I'd just said, her hand resting lightly on my arm. Sarah's mouth opened. She took a step toward us. Dave, she croaked. The cafe was quiet enough that Elena heard it. She looked up, then at me. Friend of yours? I looked at Sarah. I looked at the dark circles under her eyes. I looked at the flyer in her hand that screamed desperation. I remembered the way she looked at the dinner table when she told me I was safe, boring, and temporary. I looked back at Elena. No, I said calmly. I don't know her. I turned my back on Sarah and took a sip of my coffee. Behind me, I heard a gasp, then a silence that stretched for eternity. Then the sound of paper crumpling. The door chimed again. When I looked back a minute later, she was gone. The flyer was on the floor, trampled by the line of customers waiting for their lattes. I never heard from her again. 6 months later, a mutual friend told me she had to move back in with her parents in Ohio. She defaulted on the lease. Her credit was tanked. Mark had blocked her. Me? I got promoted. I traveled to Japan. I kept seeing Elena. I never did get closure in the traditional sense. No long conversation. No weeping apology. But I realized I didn't need it. Closure is a scam. It's a way for the guilty to feel better and the victim to stay trapped. The best revenge isn't a speech. It isn't a confrontation. It's being happy. It's being successful. And it's the look on her face when she realizes that while she was busy testing the waters, you simply walked out of the ocean and dried off. She wanted to see if there was something still there. She got her answer. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.